The late afternoon sun hung low over the African savanna, casting long shadows across the golden grasslands. Amina balanced a bundle of firewood on her head, her small but strong frame moving with practiced ease. The scent of dry earth and wildflowers filled the air, but something else lingered, something different. A scent unfamiliar, musky and thick, curling around her like an unseen warning. She paused, tilting her head slightly. The wind had shifted. The birds had stopped singing. Even the rustling leaves seemed to hold their breath. A strange sensation prickled at the back of her neck, the unmistakable feeling of being watched. She turned her head slowly, careful not to make any sudden movements. That was when she saw them, two golden eyes staring at her through the tall grass, unblinking, unyielding. A chill ran through her body. The eyes belonged to something massive, something ancient, something powerful. A lion. Her heart pounded in her chest, but her feet remained firmly planted. Running was not an option. She had heard the elders' warnings. If you run, you are prey. The lion took a single step forward, and the grass parted slightly, revealing its thick golden mane. The beast was enormous, its muscles shifting beneath its tawny fur with each slow, deliberate movement. The air around Amina felt heavier, as if the world had shrunk to just the two of them, predator and child, face to face. Amina had always been fearless. She had grown up listening to stories of warriors and hunters, of brave men who faced the dangers of the wild. But she was not a warrior, and she had no weapon. All she had was her courage, and a single smooth stone at her feet. Her fingers twitched as she fought the instinct to reach for it. Was it a challenge? Was the lion testing her? She could not tell, but one thing was certain, it was not afraid of her. The lion's gaze never wavered, its breath slow and steady. Then it let out a deep guttural growl, low and resonant, a sound that rumbled through her bones. It wasn't a roar of attack, but a warning. Amina's breath caught in her throat. The firewood on her head felt heavier now, her arms rigid at her sides. Her mind raced, trying to recall everything she had ever been told about lions. Don't run. Don't make sudden movements. But what do you do when a lion is this close? The beast took another step forward. Amina had mere seconds to decide. Would she stand her ground? Would she throw the stone? Or would this moment be the last she would ever know? The night air in the village carried the weight of whispered fears. The elders sat around a crackling fire, their voices hushed but urgent. The lion had been seen again, and this time it had come closer than ever before. It is not normal, one of the old men muttered, shaking his head. Lions do not stalk humans unless they are desperate. Or cursed, another elder added grimly. Amina sat near the edge of the gathering, her fingers absently tracing the hem of her tunic. She had not yet spoken of her encounter. Something inside her hesitated, not out of fear, but because she was still trying to make sense of it herself. She could still see the lion's golden eyes in her mind, the slow rise and fall of its powerful chest. It had not pounced. It had not attacked. Instead, it had watched her, as if waiting for something. They say it has been lurking near the river, an older woman murmured, wrapping her shawl tighter around her shoulders. No one dares go there alone anymore. Amina's mother reached for her daughter's hand, squeezing it gently. Stay close to the village, she said. You hear me, Amina? No more wandering too far. Amina nodded, though deep down, she knew she could not ignore what had happened. The lion had come to her, and it had left her alive. A different kind of fear. By morning, the whispers had spread like wildfire. Some spoke of the lion as a spirit sent to test them. Others feared it was growing bolder, hunting humans instead of its usual prey. The hunters prepared their weapons, sharpening their spears, setting traps along the outskirts of the village. They were not afraid to face a lion, but even they admitted that something about this one was different. It doesn't act like the others, one of them told Amina's father. It doesn't hide. It watches. Amina listened, silent as the men spoke. She had heard stories of man-eaters before, lions that turned to hunting humans when sickness or old age made them too weak to chase their usual prey. But this lion, it had strength in its eyes. And yet, It had not lunged at her when it had the chance. She wanted to tell them what she had seen. She wanted to describe the way it had hesitated, the pain she thought she had glimpsed in its eyes. But the words caught in her throat. No one would believe her. They would say she had imagined it. They would tell her that a lion was a lion, and there was no reasoning with a beast. But Amina knew better. And deep down, she knew this was not the last time she would see it. The midday sun blazed overhead as Amina walked along the narrow dirt path that led toward the river. The village was behind her, its noise fading with every step. Her mother's warning echoed in her mind, "Stay close to the village." But she couldn't, not after what she had seen. She had spent the morning watching the hunters prepare. They spoke of traps, of spears, of the best way to bring down the lion before it attacked one of their own. But something inside her screamed that they were wrong. This was not a mindless killer. She had looked into its eyes and seen something deeper. Pain. Amina knew she was taking a risk, but she also knew that if she did nothing, the lion would not survive. The hunters would see to that. She adjusted the leather pouch slung over her shoulder, feeling the weight of the water flask inside. She had also taken a strip of dried meat and a small cloth. She didn't know how, but she would try to help the lion. If it didn't kill her first. Face to face with danger. The river shimmered in the afternoon light, its surface broken only by the occasional ripple of a fish. Birds chirped in the branches above, unaware of the danger lurking nearby. Amina's breath caught in her throat as she saw it. The lion lay beneath the shade of an acacia tree, its massive frame stretched out, its golden mane moving slightly in the breeze. For a moment, she thought it was asleep. Then its tail flicked. It knew she was there. Her body tensed as the lion slowly lifted its head. Its eyes, sharp and knowing, locked onto hers. It didn't move, but she saw its nostrils flare, catching her scent. Amina forced herself to take a slow step forward. Her hands trembled, but she clenched them into fists, steadying herself. She had already come this far. There was no turning back. The lion exhaled, a low, rumbling breath. Then it moved. It tried to rise, but as soon as it put weight on its injured paw, a deep growl of pain escaped its throat. The sound was so raw, so filled with suffering, that Amina's fear wavered. The lion was hurt worse than she had thought. She could leave now. She could turn around and run back to the safety of her village, but something rooted her to the spot. A choice stood before her. She could abandon the lion and let the hunters finish what they had started, or she could do the unthinkable. She could try to help it. Amina's heart pounded as she took another step forward. The lion's amber eyes flicked to her feet, watching her every move. Its breathing was slow but labored, and the wound on its paw was worse than she had imagined. Blood clung to its fur, dark and matted, and each time it shifted, a fresh wave of pain rippled through its massive body. Still, it did not attack. Amina swallowed hard, her throat dry. She knew the stories, how a single swipe from a lion's paw could break bones, how its powerful jaws could snap through the thickest hide, but she had also seen something else in its eyes. Not anger, not hunger, something closer to trust. She reached into her pouch, pulling out the small water flask. The metal clinked softly and the lion's ears twitched. Its muscles tensed, prepared to react, but it didn't move. Amina crouched, her movements slow and deliberate, and poured a small stream of water onto the dry earth between them. The lion's nose twitched at the scent. Then, to her astonishment, it did something she never expected. It lowered its great head and lapped at the water. A silent understanding. Amina barely breathed. She was close enough now to see the details of its face, the scars hidden beneath its fur, the dried blood near its wound. The lion continued drinking, its massive tongue driving over the damp earth, savoring every drop. It was not a trick. It was not a trap. The lion was accepting her help. Amina reached for the cloth in her pouch, her hands shaking. She knew she had to clean the wound, but the moment she moved closer, the lion let out a deep, warning growl. She froze. The air between them felt impossibly thin. The lion's golden eyes bore into her, testing her, waiting. She did not move back. Instead, she did something no one would have dared. She spoke. Her voice was soft, steady, barely above a whisper. "I know you're hurting." The lion's ears flicked forward. "I just want to help." It was impossible to know if the beast understood her words, but something in its posture shifted. The tension in its shoulders eased, just slightly, just enough. Amina inched forward, her fingers brushing against the rough fur of its paw. The lion's muscles tensed beneath her touch, but it did not pull away. Then, in an act that would leave even the bravest hunter speechless, the lion closed its eyes. It trusted her. And Amina knew, in that moment, that there was no turning back. Amina barely dared to breathe. The lion's fur was coarse beneath her fingertips, its warmth radiating through her hand. Up close, the beast was even more powerful than she had imagined. Its chest rose and fell with slow, steady breaths, but every so often, its body tensed with a tremor of pain. She turned her focus to its wounded paw. The jagged piece of wood was buried deep, the skin around it swollen and inflamed. Dried blood clung to the fur, and even though the lion had accepted her presence, she knew this next part would test the fragile trust between them. Her fingers trembled as she pulled out the cloth from her pouch and dampened it with the last few drops of water from her flask. The lion's ears twitched at the sound, but it remained still. "I have to clean this," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. She pressed the damp cloth gently against the wound. The reaction was instant. The lion let out a low, deep growl, its entire body stiffening. Amina jerked back instinctively, her heart slamming against her ribs. For a brief, terrifying moment, she thought it would strike her. But it didn't. The growl faded into a heavy sigh, and the lion's shoulders relaxed once more. It was trying to endure the pain. A beast in pain, not in rage. Amina worked carefully, dabbing away the dried blood and dirt. The lion twitched but did not pull away. As she cleaned the wound, she could see the cause of its suffering more clearly now. The thick splinter lodged deep into the flesh of its paw. No hunter had done this. No spear, no blade. This injury had come from the wild itself. Had it stepped on a broken branch while hunting? Had it tried to fight off another predator? The lion had been suffering for days, maybe longer, unable to run, unable to hunt properly. Amina exhaled slowly, steadying herself. This piece of wood had to come out. Her fingers brushed against the splinter. The lion flinched, its lips curling slightly, revealing razor-sharp teeth. Every instinct screamed at her to stop, to turn back. But she didn't. Instead, she spoke again, her voice calm but firm. "I know this hurts, but it has to come out." The lion's breathing deepened, its massive chest rising and falling. It blinked once, slowly, as if weighing its choices. Then, to her amazement, it lowered its head to the ground and went still. It was ready. Amina took one last deep breath, gripped the splinter between her fingers, and pulled. Amina's fingers tightened around the splinter, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. The lion's paw was warm beneath her touch, its breath slow but heavy with anticipation. She knew she had only one chance. If she hesitated, if she failed, the beast might lose its fragile patience, and she would not get another opportunity. She swallowed hard and pulled. The splinter resisted at first, lodged deep into the tender flesh. The lion let out a sharp, guttural growl, its muscles rippling with the instinct to lash out. Amina's breath caught, her body rigid with fear. For a moment, she thought she had made a terrible mistake. But then, with one final tug, the splinter came free. Blood welled up where the wood had been, dark and fresh, but almost immediately, the lion's entire body sagged with relief. The deep growl faded into a long exhale, its golden eyes half closing as if the weight of its pain had been lifted. Amina stared at the splinter in her trembling hands. It was longer than she had expected, thick and jagged, its edges sharp enough to cut. No wonder the lion had been suffering. A moment of stillness. She let the splinter fall to the dirt, then quickly pressed her cloth against the wound, applying gentle pressure to stop the bleeding. The lion flinched but did not pull away. For a long, breathless moment, neither of them moved. The wind stirred the tall grass around them, carrying the scent of earth and blood. The savanna stretched endlessly in every direction, silent but watchful. Somewhere in the distance, a bird called out, its cry breaking the stillness. Amina slowly lifted her gaze to the lion's face. Its great golden eyes met hers, unreadable yet strangely calm. She had done it. She had helped the lion. An understanding beyond words. Amina's hands trembled as she withdrew the cloth. The bleeding had slowed. The wound was still raw, but without the splinter, the lion would heal. She knew she should leave now. She had pushed her luck further than anyone ever had. But something kept her rooted to the spot. The lion did not move to attack. It did not snarl or bare its teeth. Instead, it simply watched her. Then, in the most unexpected gesture of all, the lion did something that would stay with her forever. It lowered its great head and let out a slow, rumbling breath. Not a growl, not a warning, but something else. Gratitude. Amina's breath caught in her throat. She had faced the impossible, and against all odds, she had won the trust of a lion. Amina sat frozen, her breath caught between disbelief and awe. The lion, this great beast feared by her entire village, had lowered its head before her. It was no longer a predator staring at prey. It was something else entirely, something no one would believe unless they saw it with their own eyes. But she did not have time to dwell on the moment. A sharp crack echoed through the air. Amina's head snapped up. Footsteps. Not one, many. She turned toward the trees lining the riverbank, and her stomach twisted. Emerging from the tall grass were the hunters, their spears raised, their expressions hard with determination. Her father was among them. Amina. His voice rang out, filled with both shock and fear. The lion's ears twitched. Its muscles tensed, sensing the danger. It did not run. It had no strength for that, but Amina could feel its energy shift. The trust it had given her could be broken in an instant. Get away from it, another hunter shouted, gripping his spear tighter. Amina's mind raced. If they attacked now, the lion would have no choice but to fight back. Wounded or not, it would defend itself, and someone, maybe many, would be hurt. Or worse. She had to stop them. A desperate plea. Amina shot to her feet, stepping between the lion and the hunters. No, she shouted. Don't throw. The hunters hesitated. The lion exhaled sharply but did not move. Its golden eyes remained locked on the approaching men, its body coiled like a tightened spring, ready for whatever came next. Amina's father's face was tight with worry. Amina, move aside. That thing will kill you. No, she insisted, her voice unwavering. It won't. The hunters exchanged glances, confusion flickering through their eyes. This was madness. No one stood in front of a lion like this. No one survived this close. It's hurt, Amina said quickly. That's why it's been near the village. It hasn't been hunting people, it was wounded. I helped it. A murmur rippled through the group. Some looked skeptical, others uncertain. Amina turned back to the lion, her heart hammering. It was still watching, waiting. Then she did something no one would have ever imagined. She took a slow step closer and placed her hand on the lion's mane. Gasps erupted from the hunters. But the lion did not flinch. It did not growl. It simply stood, regal and unthreatened. Amina turned back to the men. It's not our enemy. For the first time, doubt crept into their eyes. And in that moment she knew she had a chance to change everything. Silence hung heavy in the air. The hunters gripped their spears, torn between instinct and the impossible sight before them. Amina stood between them and the lion, her hand resting on its mane as if it were no more dangerous than a stray dog. The lion did not snarl, did not bare its fangs. It simply stood there, its golden eyes calm, waiting. Amina turned to the hunters, her voice steady. Look at it. If it wanted to attack, it already would have. Her father took a cautious step forward, his grip on his spear tightening. Amina, you don't understand. It's a wild animal. It's dangerous. It was dangerous, Amina said, because it was hurt, because it was in pain. But now, she glanced at the lion, feeling its slow, steady breathing beneath her hand. Now it just wants to leave in peace. The hunters exchanged uneasy glances. The idea of sparing a lion, especially one that had been so close to their village, went against everything they had been taught. But none of them could ignore what they were seeing. Aminah's father hesitated, his face torn between fear and something else, pride. His daughter, the fearless girl who had always asked too many questions, had done something none of them had dared to. Slowly, he lowered his spear. "Let it go," he said, his voice firm. A murmur rippled through the group, but one by one, the hunters lowered their weapons. Some still looked doubtful, but no one argued. They had seen the truth with their own eyes. The lion's farewell. Aminah stepped back, her hand falling away from the lion's mane. For a moment, it did not move. It stood there, watching her, as if memorizing her face. Then, with a slow turn, it limped toward the tall grass. The hunters parted, some stepping back as it passed. No one moved to stop it. No one dared. The lion paused at the edge of the grass and turned its head one last time. Its golden eyes met Aminah's. And then, with a slow, regal stride, it disappeared into the wild. A story that would never be forgotten. The village would talk about that day for years. The hunters would tell the tale in hushed voices, never quite able to explain what they had witnessed. Some believed the lion had been a spirit testing their hearts. Others claimed it had been fate. But Aminah knew the truth. The lion had simply been an animal in pain. And for the first time, instead of fearing it, someone had chosen to understand it. From that day forward, the people of the village spoke her name with reverence. The fearless girl who had tamed a lion.